Hey there, everybody. Coming to you live on the interwebs on Wednesday, the 22nd of November, 2023. I am your host for tonight. Today, it's 11 p.m. here. It's 10 a.m. over in the east. My name is Aaron, and today we've got Junmi, Beth, Robert, Carl, and Andy. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us. And boy, what a week it's been in AI. Woohoo!
What a night.
Yeah, it's like, wow. Like, since Friday, things have gone crazy. The whole open AI thing has exploded. Everybody's talking about it. I love reading some of the comments on Twitter in particular. People saying, I don't want to go to sleep. Something's going to change in the next 5 minutes and I'm going to miss out. So, I think that's going to probably be a decent chunk of our conversation. But there was other things that happened in the news this week. But why don't one of you guys jump in and start by telling us a little bit about what's going on in today at this very minute in the OpenAI saga? Who wants to tackle that one?
I've got a couple of stories. So the two big ones that I wanted to highlight were number one, Stability AI released that they're getting into the text to video side of things as well and releasing their model. Some of the things that they put on their demo page looks pretty good. They already were doing comparisons for Runway and Pika, and so it looks like they'll be getting into that market as well. Anywhere from, I think it was 14 frames to 25 frames. So anyone interested in generating AI video, that might pique your interest. The second one, similarly, is the Singapore University. Their research, one of their research groups, announced what they're calling DERFA, which is a AI-based program that takes a audio clip and a single photo of you and turns it into a emotive avatar. So they've found a way to analyze the audio from their two models, their audio model and their facial expression model, and tie them together. So they can take a single photo, map it, and have you speaking naturally and look like you're speaking naturally, whatever that audio clip is. So those are the two big ones that I have today. Anybody else?
So those are demos, right? Not they're not their announcement of technology, but
yes, these are both announcements. They're not use it today kind of things. Yeah. There is a wait list for the Stability AI, so I hopped on there. I don't know what their turnaround is. They didn't seem to make any promises on that.
Yeah, one thing I will say, having only Junmi told me about DERFA like 5 minutes before we went live, and I quickly jumped over and had a look at it, and because I'm the AI video guy, and they had a picture of a Singaporean student or professor, and they matched it up with Barack Obama's voice, and it is incredibly lifelike looking about the way his face moved. I'm used to using HeyGen's picture to voice option or talking photo option. It is light years ahead of that. So very interesting technology. Anyway, sorry about that. Who's next?
I have a real deep technical thing to add here. There's an organization called the Large Model Systems Organization, which released a report on a new process that will dramatically accelerate the generation that's done by LLMs. So right now, the LLMs typically used for sort of text prediction, they use something called autoregressive decoding. I don't understand that, but ask ChatGPT. But it basically describes how, in predicting the next word, it does this in a serial, sequential fashion. Well, this group, the Large Model Systems Organization, came up with a method that does this in parallel, so that it doesn't do it. It can't get way too far ahead of it with these parallel paths, but somehow their methodology is looking at more than a 2x improvement in latency and speed to generation. So just with a change to the algorithm, basically.
Wow.
Cool.
So that's big. That's big, and that's big for businesses because potentially that is cost savings that gets passed on to you, and information and generating AI generation then gets cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And thank you, Adrian, for hanging with us. For those of you who are waiting for the OpenAI tea, we will get to it. We just don't know that will take the rest of the show.
I
We want to
got
make
my
sure that the
popcorn
other
here.
news it gets 5 seconds before we just
Yep.
talk about OpenAI.
So, I have a couple of non-OpenAI news, and honestly, I just now read the new update, so I guess I'm a little behind as of 1 a.m. last night. So I just posted that in the private chat. Anyway, every once in a while I'll come across things that are not really mainstream interesting, but interesting to me. So maybe people listening to this are in the same boat. Goliath 120B. It's a new language model, open source, that was launched, and they basically are sandwiching together 2 Llama 2 models. Supposedly, it's doing pretty good. That's one thing I thought I'd bring up. And of course, I follow the Hugging Face leaderboard and kind of watch what's coming and going. And Geese, which is why I think it's a Chinese language model. Right now, it's kind of pushing the top of the scoring in the language models. And why that's important for people who are listening is because recently, when all this debacle came out with OpenAI, everybody's like, well, crap, is my GPT API going to be down? And am I going to have to pivot? And I was telling people the genie's out of the bottle. Language models and transformer architecture is being mainstreamed, or there's tons of companies doing it. So at this point, even if you had to pivot to another model that's as good as 3.5 or 3, don't forget, a year ago we were blown away by GPT-3. So I think we're okay. Even if there's never ever again a GPT-4, there's enough open source models out there to make up the difference and pick up where we left off. They might be a little bit behind, but they're going to catch up, I think, in my opinion. So I had to follow those leaderboards and follow the ones out there like E and Mistral and Orca and all that kind of stuff. But another thing I wanted to mention was OpenGPT from LangChain. It's another thing that is open source in nature, and I'll post that into the comments for those who want to look at it. But it's basically agents in a different way. So if those people
Hey,
wanna...
Robert, you mentioned Orca. Orca is a language model that Microsoft Research built, right? And the news is that Orca 2 was just released by Microsoft Research, and it's able to accomplish reasoning, one of the more advanced capabilities of large language models, with a much smaller model. So it's advancing the capabilities of reasoning and instruction following. You can give it a very general instruction, and it can go through its own reasoning process to figure out how to accomplish your objective.
And that's the beauty of this, like what you said. Yeah, it's so hard to follow all the papers, but there's so many papers going out there using different technologies to do more with less stuff. So that's why I'm fully expecting, just like the whole thing about, I'm pivoting here, but the whole thing about battery operated cars and the inefficiency of those batteries. I'm a firm believer. The scientists are going to find ways to make those batteries smaller, more efficient, blah, 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 right? Same thing for language models. They're going to figure out ways to make them work with less, so they'll be fitting on our phones. That's the end goal, right? So I love that there's technologies out there and they're constantly being used. But hopefully, unlike peer-reviewed medical papers, if anybody's familiar with the medical industry, if you saw a groundbreaking paper in Scientific American, some medical journal or whatever, it'll take 10 years before you see that in your doctor's office, I'm told, okay, from people in the science. I hope that's not the case for language models and their papers. Hopefully, obviously, there's a lot less red tape right now for that. But hopefully, we'll see those papers and those optimizations you're speaking of, Andy, go to market faster. Okay, that's my 2 cents.
Anyone want to chip in on our friends at Anthropic? They've had some.
I did. Yeah, that was the 2 that I wanted to put in, and a joke. So the 2 was the released by Anthropic. You've got Claude 2.1, 200K context window, and then you also have, according to them, 2 times less hallucinations, although that
Yeah.
probably has to be tested out. And then but what's interesting too, even with everything that went on, there's still a lot of it's very hard to get the API. So
No.
and unless you have an enterprise account, which they'll give it to you pretty quick, but if you don't, so for example, like I have Claude 2 chat from my personal account, and I applied at the same time for the API, couldn't get it. I haven't gotten it, and that's months.
There's a workaround. You can use Respell to get the API from.
You could. I have the
Open Router.
but I
Sorry.
got I got the actual API from Anthropic
personally.
within for 2, not personally, with my business account. So in my business account, I have the API, but with my personal account, I just have chat. So it's an interesting kind of thing. And I actually can't get chat for my business account because they closed the loophole in Canada for getting it in Canada. So I don't know how I did that, but I got that.
Before you get the API, that's odd. They give you a Canadian an API, but not the chat,
which is fast. It's like, oh, fantastic. I'll take it.
So, Carl, can you
and
just
you
maybe
can't-
explain to people watching what is the implication of this 200K token context window? Just in case anyone doesn't really know what that means in real terms.
I have a great thing for that if anybody wants to.
Well, you know that ChatGPT Turbo got 100. So let's move back a little bit. Claude, when it came out, they initially had 100K context window. That was the largest context window out of all the large language models, where that was amazing that a lot of people could use it because you can put 100K. What is that? 1.2 words. So it's like one character or one token is equivalent to 1.2 words.
No.
Yeah, so look at the screen there, Carl, because this is a perfect visualization of what you're talking about. This is what this is the tokenizer that you can go to OpenAI and just do it. And if you look at every one of those colors, that's a different token. So some words use more than one token, some words use a whole token. So in the context of what 200,000 tokens mean, this is kind of giving you a visualization of what that is. So,
but you do have to remember that just because you've got 200,000 tokens doesn't necessarily mean the entire 200 tokens is going to be accurately retrieved or accurately read. From the last time, I think it was like for ChatGPT, it was better at the bottom, but for Claude, it's better at the top. So, which means
opposite.
Opposite, yeah.
And the middle is where we're getting a life. So you give them a big paper, it's not getting the middle of the book or the middle of the paper.
Yeah. Right. So I think it's like if you upload, like, how many books is that? 30 books, 50 books, however many books that is. If you upload it as a file or into Claude as like text, that is that amount. It may not read that huge middle part. So, and I've yet to, I don't know about you, I haven't ever used a full 200, like, I don't know when I would ever use a 200K input.
Or whether it would be advisable, because I think in general it's true that the more you load into the working memory of the LLM, the just like with us, if you just overtax the system with too much, it will start to degrade some of your capabilities.
For sure.
And I think that's true for the LLMs as well.
Right. So what they said was 2 times fewer hallucinations, right? Which isn't really giving you a ton of information about how many hallucinations there were before, right? Like, I mean,
is it the same as half as many?
I was just thinking, wouldn't it just been better to tout that feature or that ability as half? Because that sounds like less than 2 times less. Yeah.
But also, I think half as many immediately brings up like, so how many are there?
Well, no, how many like was your large language model hallucinating 2 times that amount before this?
Right.
And like, what did that mean, right? So that's
Right.
kind of the funny
So
thing.
there's
So yeah.
there's someone in the OpenAI exchange who put together, and I'm sorry I don't have it brought up
OpenAI
because I
exchange.
Woody Taylor.
the AI exchange. Sorry, I was up way too
Great
late
filter.
last night.
Thank you.
The AI exchange. The AI exchange. There's someone in the AI exchange whose name I'm not being able to pull up right now, but I will try.
Woody Taylor.
Who ran the needle in the haystack in the big context window, and against like the 2 times fewer compared to ChatGPT was like still way more than ChatGPT.
Mhm.
That is yes, that is
More hallucinating,
quantifiable
you're saying.
statistical language. Yes. So yes. Yeah. Claude's fewer is still significantly more than ChatGPT's regular rate of hallucination
Right,
over
right.
a long.
Which I think that paper we
document.
talked about last week that I posted, the article said it's about 4% hallucination with GPT, and then Anthropic's like 6, I think, or it's a little bit worse, but it's still better than Llama, which was like 15%, I believe.
There's one more news that I want to put out, and it's kind of under the radar, but I think it's really important. It's because of their strategy. So Amazon released their AWS education, which was pretty big because they are banking not on, from an AI perspective, not being the like providing an LM, like they have one, but their goal was similar to what happened with Amazon Cloud, where, and this is straight from Amazon, they want to be the leaders in education, which usually translate, hey, if we educate the market the best, then we get the
Well, they have a long road ahead of them, Carl. I hate them as much as you hate Google, because I've been on probably 3 or 4 of their Gen AI, calls. I'm like, it's painful. It is. I mean, like, first off, I mean, no offense to foreigners, but I can't understand what they're saying. Number one, and number two, it's very basic. They don't talk about. I'm sorry, I don't know what you're saying, Aaron. But it's just very slow and very untechnical. You think that these people are really smart, they'd be more technical, and it's very basic. And they're trying to use tools, and they make these huge claims about they're doing something that OpenAI has been doing for 8 months. It's like it's very not impressive. Anyway.
So,
but that's Amazon's model, right? Like, I mean, that's been Amazon's model the whole time. It isn't that they're like the best at doing the thing. They're just the persistent at doing the thing. And then
every part of your life with something.
Right. And they make it.
We definitely need to jump to the topic of Anne, because we have 10 minutes left of OpenAI. So for those who don't know, Sam's back.
Spoiler alert!
Yay! He's back. He's back in charge. Well, not charge, but they're working. I just posted I'll post it to the private chat, or the group chat. It's the new article from Verge that kind of shares that story. Anybody else have any thoughts on that?
I think that this is a fantastic, nice little bow to put on the crazy story for the last, was it 4 or 5 days?
It's not even been a week yet. Dang.
Yeah, it hasn't been a week. And they wrap it all up before the holidays. Well, U.S. holidays anyways. And now everything's going to be better than it was. And Microsoft came out, this whole experience on top. They got a 2% bump in stock price, and they're the good guys. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but this makes for a great way to just juice the numbers before the end of the year.
That's a good point. But I okay. So if you read, I posted another article. There's an article in New York Times that does a really good job of giving the history and what's obviously happened behind the scenes that we don't know about. There's been a strife happening at OpenAI about alignment or other things, and so you say it's a good thing. Well, let's look back, and this could be the Cyberdyne Systems type of thing. Like this could be the linchpin of
Who's
when
Miles Dyson?
Who's that?
Who's Miles Dyson?
Okay, for those
Well,
of us
exactly.
who don't know what
Who's
Cyberdyne
Miles Dyson?
Systems is.
It's Terminator. It's all over
Yeah,
again.
the
But my
Terminator
point is
series,
that
yeah.
when
Thank
you
you.
when you have a branch like this, where basically they ousted the people that were trying to go one direction. The board was like, "Stop it! You're lying to us. You're not being truthful. We're arguing about alignment. He wants to go this way, and they want to go this way." And because everybody likes him, and he's a good pitch man, all of his employees and everybody's going with him, and so now he was forcing out this other opinion, basically. And for good or bad, I don't know. But now that part of the board is gone, and the new board is in that will do what he says. It's like what's it called? A puppet army or a
Puppet master.
puppet leadership when whatever. It's not really, they don't have any power, because if he doesn't like it, he's gonna do the same thing and get them out.
I think there's a lot of causality in that summary that I'm not sure we can say definitively.
Well, I mean, the article in New York Times does do a really good job explaining there was a lot of behind the scenes back and forth that was happening. And so my point is that because they got ousted in order to get him back, because that was the push, and that was, to keep OpenAI, doing what it can do, that can be scary. It could be that we're going down a path now that's much more about alignment and much more about AGI.
One thing that going forward, I think and Robert touched on this, is we're like, the safety considerations and where people were looking at that, and some of the board members were concerned. That the acceleration from OpenAI, like, they're gonna hit that pedal like fast. There's not, in my opinion, it's like, yes, the board no longer is my barrier, even though they'll say, there's a higher safety. Sure, I'll just report to them more. I'll just tell them that I'm going faster. That's how I see it. It's like, I'm going to go even faster. I'll just tell you that I'm going faster, but I'm just going to go faster. And I feel like
so you're saying like the leash is off, the chains are off.
Yes.
Just full sprint into the crazy Wild West.
Yes.
Right.
And I think what was lost in this was that, yes, there was divisions and whatnot, but it's funny that it's like they're all fighting about AGI, and everything in the news was AGI. I don't know if everyone really understands the gravity of, hey, they are pushing towards artificial general intelligence. Like, that is a really big thing, which means like that accelerator to AGI is like, oh, can it happen the next decade? Yes. I think it's gonna be faster than that. Now it's going to be even faster. And I think this kicks off even a higher arms race, because let's say Sam was ousted, it would have effectively done a little bit of a pause, because they would have, even if OpenAI employees went to Microsoft, and it would have had time to build that up, and then OpenAI would have had to hire employees and do all that stuff. Now all the infrastructure is in place. All the employees are loving Sam, and everybody wants to go because they're now more unified. Think of that.
Same as Oppenheimer.
Okay.
Yes, it's a full press. I don't see we're gonna be in for a wilder ride than we have the past year.
Okay. So it has always been a full press. I suggest people, for a little bit more of the background of the documents, go and listen to the Marketing AI show, which Paul Reitzer, it was not their plan, but this happened. And he just went through and did sort of like a journalism, okay, so these are the documents. This is like what the agreement is with the nonprofit structure, and the way that it interacts with the corporate structure, which is the profit building. One of the things in that document is that when AGI gets achieved, all of the profit and corporate and all of that stuff Like Microsoft doesn't get access to AGI. None of the investors get access to AGI.
That's what I was gonna say.
AGI, once it is achieved, is to the benefit of humanity. That is the mission. So and that I think played a large part in why like Microsoft was a nice holding station, but people were like, we can't like do AGI under Microsoft because that was like
but don't
completely
you think though,
against the
that has
mission.
changed now though? Like,
Mm.
not saying it could have, but I'm like, wouldn't now everything that I've seen from interviews with Sam by himself, the reason why like GPT 3.5 came out and not really necessarily with 4 was they wanted to get this technology into the hands of everybody as fast as they can rather than trying to hold it and test it with everybody else. That
Right.
was his always point. So I was like, we want to get this technology into the hands of the users. And, I was always talking about, we need more education. But then when I read about what he was looking at, he says, it's not our job to do it. Like, we'll provide some guidance, but it's for the market. It's for the people to use it the way they use it. Like we aren't the ones educating them how to use it. They'll figure out how to use it. And that kind of was like a big revelation for me. Like, I didn't really think about it until like, oh, that's what he's actually trying to do, is get it into our hands faster so we could figure it out.
This
Rather
reminds me of a great quote from Real Genius, one of my favorite movies, when they're building the laser and they're like, all these kids are building the laser. And he's like, well, maybe they already have a purpose for it. You ever thought about that? It's like, what do you mean? He's like, maybe they already have a reason for using this laser. And it was to kill people from space. It was a great storyline. So this is the thing is I don't like the naivete of Sam saying, yeah, we're going to develop AGI and whoever gets it, yeah, I'm sure they'll have fun using it. It'll be great for humanity. I'm not a what's the guy from Toronto? That's a
lot of people.
the guy that was is kind of Chicken Little and grandfather of AI. What's his name?
The Google guy.
Hinton, yeah, Jeffrey Hinton. Like, I'm not quite in his camp, or Eliezer Yudkowsky, which I follow on Twitter. There's a lot of nobody knows it's going to happen, but I don't like
Right.
the idea that it's
Okay.
Yeah.
So in addition to this, what I want to point out is AGI is artificial general intelligence. Once it's achieved, profit doesn't happen, and the board gets to decide when it's been achieved. Sam
that's interesting.
recently
'Cause nobody
has
can agree on
talked
what that
about-
means.
So Sam has recently talked about super intelligence, right? And what we talked about last week was AGI is like across the board, but like there are narrow intelligences that are already beyond what humans can do, right?
Sure.
And the ability to align those with things that are good for humanity mean right now humans interact with AI and say, yes, that's a good result. That's not a good result. That's RLAH something. Sorry.
Right.
But that is a
Right.
problem that they're trying to solve, because how do you align an AI that is functioning beyond a human level with what they refer to, how do you prevent it from going rogue? And how do you know that it's going rogue? Right? Like, I mean, like there's stuff, and that's a current thing, because it can happen before AGI is achieved. Right? So the conversation is shifting a little bit.
And something I want to throw into the mix here, I don't know if any of you guys have thought about this. It seems to me that it's not really in Microsoft's best interest for OpenAI to actually come up to create AGI. Like,
No.
if at that point it happens and it's supposed to be based on what OpenAI was set up to do, it's supposed to be given to humanity, as it were. At that point, Microsoft doesn't have any financial advantage. So
They don't have a product.
I wonder whether they're maybe not wanting to inspire this extra performance, or whether they're just trying to rename it so super intelligence becomes AGI -1. So we've got a little bit extra runway that we can make some more money and put it into our product. So anyway, guys, we're just about at it. We're at the 30-minute mark. Do you want to do a TLDR? Or does anyone else want to jump in before we finish
I'm not
up?
sure Andy has had an opportunity to like say stuff.
Okay, I would just like to say that, first of all, whether it's OpenAI or somebody else who achieves this fuzzy threshold called AGI really doesn't matter, because it's not something that once having been achieved has a moat around it, and then you can protect it and govern it.
Right.
It's going to be achieved by multiple parties around the world, bad actors and good actors alike. The real underlying question, and I think what caused this rift at the board level, is there are people who say, very, very profound thinkers and advanced technologists who say we should take a pause and put in place the governance that will protect us from releasing AGI into the wild without some kind of mechanism that we can stop it if it becomes nefarious, or just help us understand before we get to that threshold and it proliferates. How do we get this under control, under wraps? And there are government initiatives to try to achieve this kind of governance of AI generally. So whether, I want to just separate this bigger sort of question of conscience that the OpenAI board struggled with and caused this rift from the reality, which is, I think, what we've gotten as a resolution with the OpenAI saga, and that is you can't stop it. You can put in place some measures that can help control it and point it towards good. But if OpenAI had not succeeded in getting back into the driver's seat, in effect, on the acceleration of the commercialization of AI, somebody else would have done it. We would have turned to Claude or whoever to do it. So
Right.
anyway, that's my perspective on it. It's really about governance and protections, so that we don't all end up in a world where there are millions of little AGIs out there doing things we don't want them to do.
This parallels the nuclear arms race so much. The story of Oppenheimer, it parallels it in an eerily way, because everybody did it because they said we better do it because our competition or our enemies will be doing it, so we better do it. It's scary. Everything you're saying, you could just substitute AI with nuclear weapons, and you're like, wow, we're having the same conversation, just different, and we're in world enders.
There's a few comments that we haven't got to. I'll just quickly read out. So Lizzie Weil said, Microsoft, where are we? She said, technology moves so quickly, it's exciting. It's a perfect hallmark ending. And Greg Guadagnoli, I think it is. I forgot your name wrong. I apologize, Greg. Greg said that Microsoft will get a seat on the board. Someone responded, I think it might have been Robert, said Microsoft can't have a seat on the board because of anti-competition. And last but not least, Greg said again, AGI will be available long before the definitions are ascribed to it. Microsoft, I agree with that. I think they're not going to go out of their way to tell us, because how do you actually even measure it? So,
yeah, there's such a wide range of human
it.
intelligence.
That was the go see last week's news show. I talked about this.
Yeah.
all righty. Hey guys, there's another exciting show done and dusted. Wow, what a week! Not even a week, boy. That has been. I think I said in my video the other day. It's like the Kardashians and the Housewives of San Francisco all combined into one. And it was for tech nerds. It was amazing. So, wow. So come back tomorrow. We've got another show on, and otherwise check us out on all the various socials. We're on Spotify, YouTube. Obviously, we're on LinkedIn. What else
Apple
are we on?
Podcasts. Apple Podcasts. Go
There you
ahead,
go.
give us a 5-star rating.
Yeah. Thanks for coming along. See you tomorrow night. Or tomorrow day.